Now, two pigeons bemoaning the fact you can stream DirecTV satellite-free.
These humans can stream all the top-rated national news channels on DirecTV, and now with no satellite dish.
This just in. Weather, sports, election coverage. DirecTV has it all, but something is missing. The satellite dish.
What are you doing?
I'm reporting the news. Back to you, Bob.
Here's some news. You're a buffoon.
Stream the top-rated national news channels. No satellite dish. Visit DirecTV.com. Internet required. Top-rated news based on 2023 Nielsen ratings.
Today on CityCast Madison. The November election is less than 1 month away. This week, we've been zooming in on the race for Dane County Executive. We sat down with both of the candidates running for the position to hear why they should be our next county exec. And today, you'll hear from State Senator Melissa Agard on her bid for the job. It's Wednesday, October 9th. I'm executive producer Haley Sperling, and here's what Madison's talking about. Senator Melissa Agard, thank you so much for being with us here today.
I'm thrilled to have this conversation. Thanks for the invitation.
And so you're clearly no stranger to Wisconsin politics. You've been a Dane County Board Supervisor, and you've spent the last decade plus as a member of our state legislature. So I'm curious, why go for Dane County Executive and why now?
Yeah, so it was an interesting day, the day that Joe Parisi announced his retirement and the weeks following. I was the minority leader at the time in the Senate and so excited about having new pragmatic maps for the state of Wisconsin and building a team to be able to right the wrongs and create a more pragmatic legislature. But I loved my time on the county government, and I was born and raised here in Dane County. And as a little girl, I benefited and my family benefited from many of the county services. And I know the good that local government provides. I also know that we have some generational problems when it comes to people who are not adequately represented by our county government. My youngest brother died due to fentanyl poisoning during the COVID pandemic. And I know that there are too many stories and too many families that have experienced that. And we can be better. So at the end of the day, I decided going back to local government where we can more directly impact people's lives, and moving to the executive branch from the legislative branch was such a unique opportunity. I'm running to become the next Dane County executive to ensure that we are the strongest community for everyone and the safest place for everyone that calls Dane County home. And to do it in a way that lifts up folks that don't feel like they've had an adequate voice in government, and celebrates and protects the qualities of life and the people who are doing well. I don't feel like we need to make a choice there.
And so this is, of course, an elected role. We're having an election. But the position of Dane County Executive isn't the same as a legislator or a lawmaker in that way. Rather, the executive is a leader and a decision maker who oversees thousands of county employees and really has the final say over the budget. And so with that in mind, why do you think that you're well positioned to be the next executive?
So I was born and raised here in Dane County. And as I mentioned, when I was young, I did benefit from county services. And it's because of those services that I very much believe that I was able to grow up and believe I could run to become a state senator, or that I can even run to become the next county executive. And at the same time, I think that ultimately local government is where it is that we protect and preserve the people of our communities. And when I was the minority leader in the Capitol building, I was the leader of the Democrats across the whole entire state of Wisconsin and my caucus in delivering our message. I have lots of experience in leadership, whether chairing the Health and Human Needs Committee from my time on the county board, the majority of the county budget coming through that, being elected right away after being in the legislature as my freshman caucus co-chair in the assembly, and in positions in and outside of government. I am someone who firmly believes that if we want to make the world be a better place, we need to lean in and we need to be that change that we desire. And that ultimately democracy does not work unless each and every one of us is doing our part. It's not like democracy happens in the Capitol building or in the city building or in the county building. Democracy is a way that we each live our lives. So I am thrilled to have built collaborative relationships with people at all levels of government, as well as within my community over my 50 years plus of living here and my elected service. And I'm very excited to have the support of county employees, both the AFSCME employees and employee groups, as well as the sheriff's deputies, totaling the majority of the people that work for the county. I'm honored to have earned the support of nearly 2/3 of the current county board. They are looking to have someone in the executive branch who they know they can work with, and they're excited, and I am excited about being able to work that way. Having earned the support of the last 2 county executives, the folks who have most recently done that job, they know what it takes to do that job, and they know that I am ready for that, and I know I am ready for that. And I am hopeful that I will continue to win the trust and the votes of people all across Dane County, because I am a proven leader and I have a proven track record of doing good work for my community. And I'm looking forward to bringing that work into the county executive's office.
And I think that's an interesting point that you bring up, that democracy really does happen all around us. And I'm curious, though, too, since you have been out of county government for so long, do you feel like you have any blind spots should you step into this role?
Well, I'm certainly every day is the day to learn something new, regardless of what role it is that we have, what our title is at that point in time. I think, and this is something that I do with my kids and my own family, when you lay your head down on your pillow, think about what it is that you learned today and how you are a better person. How did you impact the world around you for the better? Certainly, there is a learning curve for anyone that is going into this job. And I would bet that if you talk to County Executive Crowley, the county executive in Milwaukee, he would say he's still learning things every day on the job. I just had the opportunity to chat with him yesterday about the transition into becoming the county executive in his community. And, knowing that, we build on our experiences and our leadership in our roles, regardless of what it is, and knowing that I have strong partners in our local municipal governments, as well as statewide. I think that, we, and having the support of the county employees, right? No one does this all by themselves. It's about those coalitions and about trust, and having the trust not only in yourself, having the population trust you enough to cast their vote, but also having the trust of the people that are most impacted by our county government.
This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. October is the season for wearing masks and costumes, but some of us feel like we wear a mask and hide more often than we want to. At work and social settings around our family, therapy can help you learn to accept all the parts of you so you can take off your masks. Because masks should be reserved for Halloween fun, not for our emotions. Therapy has been so key to my journey. If you're thinking of starting therapy, finding a way in, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, so it's convenient and flexible for scheduling. You just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can then switch therapists free of charge at any time. Take off the mask with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/citycast today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/citycast.
Hi, this is David Plotz of CityCast. Have you thought about a gift for yourself this year? One that has the power to help you grow and learn and become a better version of yourself? Give yourself the gift of language by getting Babbel. With quick 10-minute lessons handcrafted by language experts, Babbel gets you talking a new language in 3 weeks. Because talking is the key to really knowing a language. And that's how Babbel approaches it. It's designed for real conversation. So I have a trip to France planned with my girlfriend. Was it inspired by the Olympics? Yes, it was. And it's given me the chance to revive my old high school French. And it's so fun to catch back up with the vocabulary I'd forgotten. To remember all the food, for example. I'm in a lesson on ingredients, so I'm going to make crepes with butter and sugar. Avec sucre et de beurre salé, on va se régaler. We're going to have a feast. I learned this great new French expression too. J'en ai l'eau à la bouche. That means I have water in the mouth. It means it's mouth-watering. Love it. Love French. Anyway, Babbel gets you talking, and studies from Yale and Michigan State University and other leading universities prove that it works. So here is a special holiday deal for CityCast listeners. Right now, get up to 60% off your Babbel subscription, but only for CityCast listeners at babbel.com/CityCast. Get up to 60% off at babbel.com/citycast, spelled BABBEL.com/citycast. Rules and restrictions may apply.
So I want to spend some time talking about the issues because that's, what people are really interested in. And because, of course, there are a lot of them. I think the thing that is first and foremost on so many people's minds these days are the matter of Dane County's growing population and the growing need for housing. Dane County has consistently been cited as the fastest growing population in Wisconsin. And of course, with that, it comes a lot of excitement, new people, new businesses. But as we've seen, particularly in Madison, it can also put a strain on our resources, particularly when it comes to housing. And with that, I'm curious, what steps can and should the county take to accommodate this growing population without also succumbing to sweeping gentrification?
Absolutely. So Dane County is a diverse community, and it's roughly half of the population of Dane County is in the city of Madison, and roughly half of the population is not. We know that with this growth, this unprecedented growth that you're mentioning, and the fact that it is anticipated that it is going to continue, it is not going to slow down. We need our municipal governments and our county to be collaborating and addressing these very real concerns. At the same time, we need to protect the communities that are, our farmlands and our unincorporated areas, and the way of life in different parts of Dane County. So I very much believe that we can prioritize a housing model that focuses on the diverse communities that make up Dane County, that focus on safety and culturally inclusive models that are sustainable and affordable. And affordability as well as access are two of the biggest concerns that we have here in Dane County. Ultimately, the Dane County Regional Housing Strategy is an amazing roadmap that the county put resources together and staff at the table over a year of time, engaging with municipal leaders, nonprofits, realtors, apartment owners, very broad, diverse coalition of folks at the table that created a roadmap for our county on how to address housing needs. And, we need our municipal governments to do their job. And Madison is working very hard on encouraging higher density. I know many of the other communities in Dane County, the municipalities are looking at how to increase higher density of housing. And also, we know that same with supply and demand. When we have more housing, we're going to be able to see the cost of housing go down. It's just a commodity in such high need right now in our communities. A couple of things that are missing from the regional housing strategy that we need to focus on. How it is that we house and support some of the most vulnerable populations in Dane County that really fall under the umbrella of county services, chronically mentally ill folks, people who are living with addiction in their lives, homeless and unaccompanied youth. They are folks that oftentimes people are not talking about as we move forward. And we absolutely need to think about those marginalized communities as we are doing this. But we have amazing examples of how it is that we've increased density. Right in the city of Madison, the Bayview Complex redevelopment on the Isthmus is a prime example of the 3 Ps, private sector, public sector, and philanthropy, rolling up their sleeves with all layers of government, our federal government, our state government, county government, municipal government, input of people that have lived in Bayview, that currently live in Bayview, that live around Bayview, that have businesses around Bayview. And we're seeing increased density. We're seeing happier residents. We're seeing better outcomes and more services to be provided. So certainly there are models that we should be building on and can be building on, but it really does mean that we have everyone at the table and we all hold ourselves accountable.
So switching gears a little bit, one of the biggest questions that the county specifically has tackled in recent years has surrounded what to do with the very troubled city-county building jail here in Madison. Ultimately, the county decided to move forward with what's been reported as the most expensive project in county history by building a new 6-story tower with more than 800 beds to replace the current facility. Many opponents to that project have stressed that the county should have spent that money on social support systems instead. With that, what is your vision for criminal justice reform in Dane County?
Absolutely. So the decision to build a new jail is a decision that I will inherit if elected to become the next county executive. There's shovels on the ground. It is happening. But I think that what we need to be thinking about in Dane County is how do we implement bold and structural changes to create a justice system that is actually just, to decrease recidivism of people that enter into the system, to support kiddos that are at risk so that they're not entering in the youth system. How is it that we look at science and evidence out there and human-focused priorities, such as investing more in social workers, early intervention and prevention, working directly with the third branch of government that we haven't mentioned, our judicial system, as well as our police departments across Dane County to think about alternatives to incarceration, working with our state government to create a diversion facility here in Dane County for chronically mentally ill and folks with addiction so that they aren't brought to the jail because there isn't a bed within a hospital. We know what works. We need to invest more in that. And ultimately, at the end of the day, most of what the county does is mandated services from our state and federal government, and we have pass-through dollars to deliver on those services. But these early interventions and preventions, these innovative approaches that I talked about earlier, are a little bit harder to fund because we don't receive funding, direct funding. But I do believe through the relationships with other layers of government, as well as the private sector and philanthropy, that we can invest more in these early interventions and preventions to increase more equity and more fairness in the ultimate results of people. We shouldn't have a 70% recidivism, right? I will believe that we have success in the new systems if we're actually providing services and seeing a decrease. Part of that is also investing money into the 911 center so that when you call 911, the operators aren't automatically calling a police officer to go out, but there's folks from Journey Mental Health and the CARES teams that are able to meet people where they are at with those types of services. And the best way to do this is to ensure that people with lived experience and diverse voices are at the table, identifying how it is that we invest those very valuable county resources to make the biggest impact on our justice system so that it becomes more fair. Everyone defines safety in a different way. And as county executive, I take that very seriously.
And with that, too, I'm curious, how do you view the purpose of our carceral system? And do you consider yourself an abolitionist?
I think that there are people out there that do terrible things, right? I mean, we have rape and murder, and everyone, as I mentioned earlier, deserves to know that they are safe within their homes and when they go to work and when they're recreating within our community. So I am not one that believes that we should not have a jail in Dane County. I think that it is there, but I think that too many people are jailed, and that I think that the racial disparities of our justice system are absolutely egregious. And oftentimes, I would say the majority of the time when a young person enters that system, we haven't done our job at the front end, and we absolutely need to be doing better.
Yeah. And so you kind of just brought this up. When we talk about our criminal justice system and reform, we really can't leave race out of the conversation. A recent study published by the Dane County Community Justice Council, the Dane County Black jail incarceration rate is more than twice the national Black jail incarceration rate. And yet Black Dane County residents make up roughly 5% of the community's population. So what kind of tangible steps can the county take to reduce these racial disparities that exist in our communities?
Well, we need to lift up the voices of the people who are most impacted and make sure that they are at the table. I think that our hard work directly in the community by hiring a more diverse workforce and the county executive putting dollars into our public schools, some of the care dollars into public schools for mental health support, our early childhood initiative zones, investing in social workers, making sure that we have people who speak multiple languages and have real life experience. Those are ways that we're going to most directly impact what it is happening in our communities. In addition, advocating for expansion of healthcare. Here in Wisconsin, we're one of, I think, 10 states that has not expanded healthcare. We know that increases outcomes when it comes to our racial disparities. Infant and parental mortalities with our births are egregious, and absolutely investing more money at the front end with our birth to 3 programs is vitally important. Making sure that we're thoughtful about who it is that we're contracting with our service providers who do that early intervention and prevention work is vitally important as well. if what we're doing is not changing the outcomes, right? We see these kid forward studies coming out year after year that continue to show that Wisconsin is one of the worst places to raise a Black or brown child. Clearly, we need to break the system, and we need to be okay with being uncomfortable in order to do that.
So switching gears once again, back in June, a coalition of 36 food pantries across Dane County gathered to call on the community for help. They really raised the alarm, saying more and more people are using their services, and more people in Dane County are facing food insecurity. So what are some of the steps that you would take to help address food scarcity in the county?
Yeah, so I was actually at their press conference on the steps of the Capitol. And, if you're not punched in the gut with the stories that folks are telling you about what they are seeing from the folks that are coming in to gain access to food, which I believe is a human right, something certainly is out of balance with you. I mean, it is a real problem. And, I'm a kid that grew up on free and reduced lunches. And when I went to school here, I stood in a different line and I received different food than the other kids. Thank God that is not the case anymore within our communities, but that is a reality. And there have been pieces of legislation that have been introduced in the Capitol building since I have been there that would provide more dollars to our local governments to be able to provide more accessible food and healthy food to people within their communities. Right now, it does appear that there are provisions in state law that prevent the county from being able to fund food banks and food pantries. I think that is something that we should reconsider, but it needs to be reconsidered with funding from the state. Right now, the state is sitting on a $3+ billion surplus. I believe that money needs to go back out into the communities. Now, I realize that's one-time use money, but I believe very strongly that access to food is one of the best ways to address poverty, to address racial disparities, to address outcomes of vulnerable people, our children included, and seniors in our population. So I strongly suggest that we get those laws changed in the state legislature, that we allow our county governments to be distributing more access to food and fund these food pantries, which at this point, it's well over a half a dozen that I have been able to tour and meet directly the consumers of those services. And the need is very great in our community.
So turning the conversation back to you as a candidate, now that the race has narrowed from 4 down to 2, what separates you from your opponent?
So I was born and raised here in Dane County. And I chose to raise my 4 boys here. I'm a single mom. I live on the far north side of the city of Madison. And I think that it is clear that Dane County is an amazing place. And being able to take my leadership back to the local level to make the most difference for folks in my community, I am strongly prepared to do that. With my leadership experience over 12 years, roughly 12 years in the Capitol, and having served 2 terms, 4 years on the county board, chairing the Health and Human Needs Committee, the support, the broad and diverse coalitions of support that I built over my years and my deep roots in my community, I know now that I am the experienced leader that Dane County needs in order to move us forward, to address many of the challenges that we've talked about here and others, but also to protect and preserve what makes our community so very special.
And so I want to take a step back and sort of reflect on the past decade or so of changes and development that have been happening around Dane County, because it truly feels like right now and over these past few years, we have been going through some really critical transitions. And as it stands, do you think the county is headed in the right direction?
As it stands, I think the county is generally headed in the right direction. I think for most people, things are going very well here. We're time and time again rated one of the best places to live. We have a low unemployment rate. You go outside on a beautiful day like today, and there's all sorts of people celebrating and enjoying the quality of life that we have here. I do think that, and as I have mentioned a number of times during our conversation here, that we do have some generational challenges. Can we do better to address our racial disparities? Do we need to do more to address climate change? Do we need to get to a point where kids can again take swimming lessons in our lakes as opposed to having to take swimming lessons in our pools? And can we eat the fish that we are harvesting when we go fishing with our families? Those are all things that we can do better. We know that our small businesses tend to grow more from white folks than they do from women and Black and brown folks. So investing in addressing our fledgling businesses and innovation and workforce, addressing our racial disparities, rolling up our sleeves and addressing our climate change and protecting and preserving the rural ways of life in Dane County are certainly things that we need to do better on. But I don't think that we shouldn't celebrate the good things that are happening here at the same time. We just need to acknowledge that it's a balance.
And elections and the news cycle, it can be a really rough place to keep your mind. So I kind of like to end things on a positive note. What makes you hopeful for the future of Dane County?
You know, the people that are here make me hopeful about the future for Dane County. It's been almost a year that since I started considering running for office and kicking off my campaign in full force, and the hundreds, if not thousands, of individuals that I have had the opportunity to sit down and talk one-on-one with, and in the small groups and larger groups of people, really motivate me to do better and to celebrate what it is that we have here. We have everyday heroes that call Dane County home, and we do amazing things. We are innovators, and we have an opportunity in Dane County not only to be a leader in the state of Wisconsin, but to be a leader in compassion and caring and breaking norms on a national level, if not on an international level. And I am thrilled to be in the mix and to have had the opportunity to run for office. And I'm excited about what my next chapter of leadership looks like in our community.
Well, Senator Agard, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been a very enlightening conversation.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Melissa Agard is a state senator representing Wisconsin's 16th Senate District. For more information on how to vote and the upcoming election, head to our show notes for a link. And in case you missed it, we spoke with the other candidate running for Dane County Executive, Dana Pelabon, earlier this week. You can find a link to that conversation in our show notes, too. Tune in this whole month as we dig into more election conversations before the big day in November. We'll be talking about state legislative races, the several referendums you'll see on your ballot, and more. That's all for today here on CityCast Madison. I'm Haley Sperling. If you're new here, thanks for checking out the show. And if you enjoyed today's episode, why not share it with your voting buddy? We'll be back tomorrow morning with more stories from around the city. See ya.